Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Self-Authoring Career, where I'll be covering off today what does it feel like and what are the signals and the signs of when you have outgrown your career. Something that we experience at some point in our careers, and for some of you, you might be experiencing that right now. But when you think about it, we outgrow many things, don't we, in our lives? We outgrow our clothes, our friends, our homes, our interests, our relationships. And there's no surprise when you look at it through that lens that it could also happen within your career as well. So why does it feel so much harder when it happens in your career? These other things, generally speaking, we feel ready for it. But for some reason, when it comes to you and your career, it doesn't feel like something that we're necessarily prepared for and that we are ready for. Thinking about when you first made your career choices, that younger version of you who was in career building mode at the time, maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago, maybe, probably had a different definition of success. That version of you was defining success on the recognition you were getting, the promotions you were getting, how much you were getting paid, the salary increases, and proving yourself, carving out a path for yourself in the workplace. And now that you have built that, and probably been in that space for a little while, it then starts to not feel like it's the right thing anymore. You can be highly competent at your career, but you can emotionally have outgrown something. Still great at it, still good at it, but emotionally you could have checked out. I worked with a finance director who had a goal of the obvious path. If you're a finance director, then one day you probably want to make your way to the post in the office of the CFO. It's a very obvious linear path. And she confided in me that it sounded glamorous. Once upon a time, it sounded very glamorous, but it didn't feel exciting anymore. Some of you might be feeling a similar kind of thing. The obvious path of where your career will naturally lead, the one that you're doing right now. Maybe once upon a time, you felt that was the right route for you and that's what you were gunning for. But now that you're getting closer to it, now you've got further up that ladder, it may not feel as exciting anymore. So signal number 1, because we have signals, don't we, that can we can use as data and information as to guide us. So signal number 1 is when something you've been working towards no longer feels exciting, is something to pay attention to. And in this case, in your career. The career path, the job itself hasn't changed, but you have. The person doing that job, the person on that path has changed, has grown, has evolved. When you look at it through that lens, perhaps actually you see it differently. I'd see that as a positive, although it doesn't always feel like that. And I think one of the challenges that we can have when it comes to feeling these signals is that how do you separate the difference between just going through a little bit of a difficult season, like, is this just stress? Is this because the work load is really high right now? Am I just going through a phase versus something no longer fitting? Because they're two different things, aren't they? And they will lead to two different outcomes. So how do you distinguish between those two things? What's just seasonal and you'll get over it, and what actually is a genuine sign that you just have outgrown something? It just no longer fits who you are, who you're becoming. I remember when I first worked in recruitment. I used to be a recruitment consultant, and I loved the company. I loved the people. I loved the industry, which was the media industry, that I was placing people within. And I was really good at matching up requirements. I could very clearly see what the organization needed in terms of a gap with the role, with the skills and requirements of what was needed in their team. And it would be very easy for me to go and find someone that could do that could fit that job. But I was also wanting to push myself and be very comfortable in becoming a great salesperson, because ultimately a recruitment consultant is actually a sales role. And I became one of the top billers. But at some point, that no longer was exciting to me. you've probably had something similar. You've probably had something same over your career. Maybe you're feeling it now, that you want something, you work towards it, you achieve it, but then after time, you want something else. Now, that's not necessarily being ungrateful. Maybe you're just evolving. This is how outgrowing something works, doesn't it? But I didn't realize that at the time. And I just started to feel that niggling feeling. Ever felt that kind of niggling feeling that you should be doing something else? Be doing something else with your time, spending your time elsewhere, focusing on something else in your career. And at first, it was very quiet. And I could brush it off very easily. It's what we do, right? We feel something, it feels a bit unfamiliar, don't really know what to do with it, so we just sweep it under the carpet. But I'm not talking about a few weeks. This wasn't just like a moment. This kept reoccurring. It kept coming back. Ever had that feeling that just keeps coming back? And it's not just a few weeks. It keeps coming back. Months, maybe years in some instances. So signal number 2 as to whether you've outgrown something is whether it keeps coming back. And the more that you brush it off, does it keep coming back? And does it keep coming back stronger? Because that's what happened to me. Oh, I could try and brush it off. And it worked a little bit at the beginning, but it just started to compound. This also happened to that financial director that I was talking to you about earlier. In working together to recalibrate where she was heading in her career and what she actually wanted now, really just alluded to and pointed to the same thing throughout that whole journey, that a change in direction, changing the plan of what she thought some years ago actually now needed to happen. And that could be really uncomfortable. It feels very unfamiliar, doesn't it? Because part of you will say, well, is it what I really want? How do I know this is the right thing? Lots of questions can then pop into your head. But as the saying goes, what you resist will persist. We may have done different things, but it's the same trajectory. Me, the finance director, maybe what you're going through right now, it's the same undercurrent, isn't it? That's happening underneath the surface. Just put a different profession, different career path on top of it, but it's the same undercurrent that we experience and that we feel that are pointing towards, well, maybe there's something else that I can now be doing. I can utilize my experience differently because I'm a different person now to who I was when I first made these career choices, probably in your 20s, much like me. So perhaps the career itself, nothing wrong with it. But the signal is telling you that maybe you have outgrown it and that maybe there is some attention that you then need to give it. Just lean into it and see what it's trying to tell you rather than ignoring it. When you climb the ladder, and you climb it hard when you're younger, right? It can then start to feel like it's more difficult to change something, to do something different. Like we get locked in, right? It can be really difficult to even listen to yourself and to really figure out and understand clearly what you generally actually want to be doing next. Status, the money, it can all distort our views. And partly that's because we are taught, aren't we? We need to climb the ladder. We need to achieve these things. It's like, look, I've done these things. So this is what success looks like. But on the inside, it doesn't feel like that. And another reason why it can be quite challenging to be able to listen to ourselves about what we really want, to be bold and brave enough to lean into that and do something about it, is because we're also so afraid of losing something. Our identity is so wrapped up, isn't it, around what we do. The more successful that you become, the more it's seen as like a badge of honor to the outside world, but it may not feel like that to you. I guess that's another sign, isn't it? When it doesn't actually feel like a version of success that you really want to be continuing to live. Because you get to choose. Someone else doesn't get to choose that for you. You get to choose it. If someone asks you when you're maybe, I don't know, at a social event or you're at a dinner party or something like that, if someone asks you about your work, like, oh, how's it going? How's, the job at whatever your company is, how's that going? And you're like, yeah, it's okay. And then you instantly just want to change topics. You want to avoid the topic at all costs. This is a massive signal, a massive sign. So sign number 3 is avoiding the topic about what you do. You don't want to be reminded when you're not at work about the job that you feel a little bit stuck in and don't particularly want to be doing anymore, want to do something different, but don't know what it is. It might feel unpleasant, but it is a signal nonetheless for you to start looking into what you actually do want. Because it's very easy, isn't it, for us to know what we don't want. But to know what we do want can be, well, it can feel harder, right? Definitely feel harder. So there's three questions that can help you just turn the lens back onto yourself. Because ultimately, I think what we try to do is we try to find the answer about, oh, what do I do next? What can I do with these skills? What can I do with the experience? And we want to try and outsource that to someone else, to something else. But ultimately, we do need to turn the lens back onto ourselves, because you're really the only person that knows what you want to be, what's going to make you fulfilled and happy in this next phase, in this next chapter. So here are three questions that can help you just flip the lens back onto you. First question: if nothing changes, so you're doing what you're doing for the next 10 years, are you doing that because you want to? Or are you doing that because you feel like you have to stay? You have to do that. That will help you understand, well, what is there a desire that I want to stay with what I'm doing, but it's just in a different place? Or do I feel that, well, I can't do anything else? So you feel locked in, or there's some kind of obligation on your shoulders to stay put. They're two very different levers. Just help you understand, what is it? Is it that I've fallen out of love with what I do, or I've just fallen out of love with the company? And just have an honest reflection on that. The second question: what is really keeping you in your job? Start to look at that. Is it the work itself? Is that keeping you there because you like it? You're energized by it? You genuinely enjoy what you're doing? Or is there a fear that if you don't do that and you go off and do something different, that you lose something? You change direction, you don't get as much money, it's not as secure, there's no certainty behind it. Or maybe it might be an identity thing. Well, I've done this for so long, a little bit like a lawyer that I used to work with, who also was very artistic. Now, I don't know if you have ever trained in law or know someone who has trained in law. It's similar to accountancy. It's similar to becoming a doctor. You dedicate so much of your life to train to do this one thing. And then all of a sudden you have thoughts about doing something different, and you discover you're really good at painting. Well, these are two different worlds. These are completely different worlds. They do not sit in the same territory at all. So you can understand the identity challenge that was getting bumped up against in that comfort zone, in that realization. So ask yourself, what is it that I am concerned about losing? Just will help you understand, what are you grabbing onto? You're grabbing onto something if you're scared to move forward and even explore. I'm not saying do it, but at least explore something different for yourself. And then the third question, just to honestly ask yourself, help yourself flush out, what is the aspiration? If I knew I could go off and do something different and be successful at it, yeah, that's the criteria. You can go and do something different and you will only be successful at it. What would I go off and do? Are you saying I would do the same thing? Or are you saying you would go off and do something else? I think it's an interesting question just to see what the aspiration is behind that. Because when we actually reconnect back to what drives us, our values, how we want to be seen in the world, what we want to become in the world, this is the first stage of the 3R career reinvention model for a reason. That reconnection part is really for you to rediscover again who you really are, because who you are now and who you were maybe 20 years ago is going to be a different version of you. You've grown, you've evolved, you've got different experiences, life has shaped you. And also in the next 10 or 20 years, you will become and evolve into somebody different as well. If you keep going with it, if you keep growing, keep expanding. And of course, your career can only go as far as you can go. So if you're sitting there wondering, well, what do I do next? I don't know. I don't think it's this. And you're turning to Google and you're putting in searches like, what can a program director do and next in their career? What can they switch into? These are the wrong starting questions. They're not wrong questions. They're just the wrong starting questions. Because before you understand what really drives you, what you're really motivated by, what you're really good at, and the value that you can really offer into the next position, the next role, the next path that you're on, then you'll never be able to really build something on that that's going to have any true meaning. So, in summary, a successful career can show you signs of growth. And it could also eventually start to show you signs of outgrowing your role. We spoke about 3 of them today. Something that you've been working towards no longer feels exciting. The more that you brush it off, the more that it comes back, keeps coming back, keeps reoccurring. And thirdly, avoiding the topic at all costs because you don't want to be reminded about the role that you no longer like but don't know what to do about it. Outgrowing something is actually a natural process. And step 1 is to embrace it, explore it, and reconnect to who you have now become as your foundational layer that you can now build something new on. And when I say something new, just something different. Could be an amalgamation of what you have already, and no doubt it will be, an amalgamation of everything that you have gathered to date in your career, but you're just repurposing it in a different way. The financial director that I shared her story with you earlier, well, part of what she is now working towards is actually using all of her financial acumen and experience to actually go into the other side of the industry where she can advise other people on how they can use financial products. So there's always different ways that you can repurpose your experience. You just got to know where you're heading and what really lights you up. So if you know that you have outgrown your career and you want to start working on that and you would value working with someone to help you figure that out and tease those answers out of you, because they're buried quite deeply sometimes, right? Then you can go to the Natural Genius website, www.naturalgenius.com, and book a next chapter strategy call with me. I'll also put the link in this post as well. And let's see how I may be able to help you figure out what next looks like for you so that this second half of your career can be even better than the first. Join me next week for the 3rd episode of the Self-Authoring Career, where I'll be talking through the cost of coasting in your career. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of the week.